All right, hopefully everyone can hear me and see my screen. On behalf of OE Castle, I want to welcome everyone here today. My name is Shannon Marchand. I am the Senior Project Manager for CCDF Operations, and I will be leading the presentation. We are so excited to have you all here and to share information on what pay by enrollment is, why OE Castle is making this change, and why we are all really excited about it. This webinar is being recorded. The link will be shared, so if you need to revisit the information at a later time or share it with other staff, that will be available. Because of the size of the meeting, you will not be able to come off mute or use the raise hand feature to ask questions. But we do have a couple of people that are managing our Q&A section. We have Tony Cruz, our Senior IT Project Manager, who has helped develop all things pay by enrollment. And we have Laura Sullivan. She's one of our Senior Policy Consultants. So they will be watching for you to drop in questions. Please note, you will need to use the Q&A feature, which is different than the chat. So please don't put your questions in the chat. Please put them in that Q&A section so that they can see them and get those answered. We will have time at the end of the presentation for questions. So once I finish presenting, we will have some time that's built in just for us to answer all of your questions. So if you want to wait till the end so you don't miss anything, hopefully your question will be answered through the slides, and we'll have that time built in at the end. So we want to make sure we get everything answered and added to our FAQs if they're not already there. So what we're covering in today's webinar is our current voucher model and the switch to the new pay by enrollment opportunity. You may see that abbreviated as PBE. Benefits for families and providers with PBE, the system changes and the implementation timeline, pay by enrollment and how that ties to the child care management systems, or CCMS, that you've been hearing so much about, how providers can prepare for the switch to pay by enrollment, and we will share the FAQs and additional resources at the end of the presentation as well. Indiana is committed to ensuring that all children have access to early learning opportunities to prepare them with the skills required to thrive in kindergarten and beyond. OE Castle's focused on addressing key issues that prevent early learning programs' growth and sustainability. This includes making changes to the child care voucher reimbursement policy to be based on enrollment versus our current attendance-based model. This summer, Indiana will transition from an attendance-based voucher model to an enrollment-based model. That will lower the process burdens and increase financial stability for providers and enhance service experiences for our families. OE Castle will assume all children are present full-time unless a provider marks them absent in the provider portal. Providers will be responsible for tracking attendance internally and recording child absences every 2 weeks in the new portal. In our current model, CCDF and On My Way families record attendance through swipe cards. Eligible families are issued cards, and providers are issued a POS machine where the cards are swiped to clock in and clock out a child each day. Swipes are captured by the state record-keeping system and then used to calculate those voucher payments. If payments are missed, parents and providers must work together to enter late attendance or do their back swipes. This current model creates several challenges for both families and providers. These challenges include process burdens for our providers, causing delayed or missed provider payments. And for our families, it calls out that they're on public support. So we see families at POS machines or carrying voucher cards, posts about missed swipes, etc. So those will be eliminated with our new system. To address these issues and to provide an enhanced service experience for both providers and families, Indiana is making a shift from this attendance-based model to an enrollment-based model. In the new model, we will no longer have POS machines, no longer have a need for landline phones, and no longer have swipe cards. Woohoo! Providers will no longer need to manage the daily swipes or missed swipes, which makes reporting easier, streamlines administrative tasks, and allows you to focus more on the children and families that you are supporting. The new system will also create greater financial stability for childcare voucher payments, making it easier and more beneficial for providers to participate. Whoa, sorry. The new enrollment-based model for families will create a modernized service experience, reduce hassles related to daily or missed swipes, and facilitate expanded access and choice as more providers are likely to participate in the voucher program based on these critical updates. For our early learning providers, it will also create a more modern experience, streamline administrative burdens by eliminating the need to manage daily swipes and making reporting easier, and it will create greater financial stability for childcare programs. Providers will use new provider portal to enter and manage their absences, off days, paid and non-paid closures, and view voucher and past absence data for the children on their rosters. This portal is how providers will connect to our new payment vendor. So Conduent is being replaced, and we will connect to Rapid Financial Systems, or RFS. Providers will be able to choose to submit attendance and absence data using the new online portal, which you will soon be see referred to as PPP, which stands for the Parent Provider Portal, or by using one of the state-preferred childcare management system vendors, which we'll cover in just a few minutes. Providers are still required to keep their backup attendance method just like you do today. So whether that's through a CCMS system, electronic tracking, or a paper attendance system, that will still be required for licensing and for audit purposes. Auditors for the state will monitor attendance data submitted through the new provider portal. And providers that do not submit any absences for any children in their care for 3 consecutive months would automatically be subject to audit. We know that every child is not present every day, and that's expected. So providers are still going to get paid for those absences. So wanted to give you a little sneak peek of what's in development. This is what the new system will look like. It's just a screenshot, but you see that all of the children are listed here. And I'll go through what we're looking at here. So pay by enrollment will no longer be based on hours. It will only be based on days attended or absent. Providers will not have to track any hours. They won't have to worry about missed swipes, and they don't have to be anxious about whether or not they're going to receive a full payment for that week. Providers will receive a full payment for every child that is enrolled and attending. Personal days will no longer be required either. So looking at this screen, a value must be entered for every day. We have tried to simplify data entry as much as possible by defaulting values to what's most common to the majority of providers. So there is a P, which stands for present, as the default setting for Monday through Friday. And OD, or off day, is the default setting for Saturday and Sunday. So when you pull up your 2-week attendance period to submit, this will already be filled in as shown for every child that is enrolled in your program. If it's correct, then no changes are required, and you would just submit the period for payment. If a value is incorrect for any child on any given day, you would just need to click in that cell for that day to change it to the correct attendance code and then submit that 2-week period. The process should be very quick and easy for providers, and no action is required from the families. So just running through the possible codes, and again, these will be on your screen. I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek onto what these look like. But P stands for present. So providers need to update this to reflect actual attendance for each child. So if you look here and this is not correct, you would just update that in your portal. AB stands for absent. So providers will still get paid for a child's occasional absence until a child reaches their 45th absence in an enrollment year. We will talk more about that in the next slide. PC stands for paid closure. Providers get 11 paid closures per calendar year. Those are going to include things like illnesses, vacations, in service days, inclement weather, or holidays. NP would stand for a non paid closure. So these are any days that providers are closed, not included in those 11 paid. And then OD stands for off day. So this is days that a provider does not regularly operate or a child is not regularly scheduled to attend. So if you have a child that only attends Monday through Thursday, they're never there on Friday, then you could mark that as an OD for that particular child. And then that would not count towards their excessive absence total. Weekends will automatically default to OD for most providers since they do not operate on a weekend. But if you are a provider who operates on a weekend, you would simply click on that cell and change it to either P if the child was present or AB if they were scheduled to attend but did not. Providers will be required to notify their eligibility office if a child is no longer attending or if they enrolled and never attended within 5 business days so that we avoid overpayment. Much more detail will be provided about this new system, what it will look like, and how it will function in additional webinars that I'll be offering towards the end of June and into July. But I just really wanted to give you a preview of what's to come in this new system and how much simpler this task is going to be for providers. And I'll share those dates to look forward to at the end of the presentation. So I mentioned this new excessive absence policy. With this policy, OE Castle really wants to stress to families the priority that's being placed on children's early learning and development. And we also want to increase our attendance expectations. We really want to stress to families about consistent attendance and the benefits that that provides to children. Absences will be tracked against an excessive absence policy that states if a child receives 45 absences within an enrollment year, so the year that voucher starts and ends, not calendar year, then their vouchers will be terminated after 45 absences. The office will issue warning letters to families and to all providers that a child is enrolled with when they reach 10 absences, 20, 30, and then 40. So there's going to be 4 warnings that go out to families and providers that they are accumulating those excessive absences. And then vouchers would be terminated after the 45th absence for that enrollment year. Once a child is terminated for excessive absences, families would have to wait 90 days to reapply for vouchers for a child that was terminated. OE Castle is also providing an opportunity for providers to allow them to reduce administrative paperwork through some automation and adoption of technology. So I'm sure you've seen a lot of our communications that have gone out about CCMS or child care management systems. These are not just for attendance. These programs support automating many of the business tasks that providers are already doing. This includes simplified enrollment, billing tools, classroom management tools, record keeping, and family communications, as well as that attendance tracking. So all of that can be done through one of these systems, which really strengthens good business practices for all of the providers. Eligible providers do have to be regulated by OE Castle, so licensed, registered, or legally licensed exempt CCDF providers with the state. And they also have to be in good standing and actively serving children. Providers are not required to have a CCMS, or if they are using a CCMS that is not one of the 3 state preferred, you are not required to switch that. But we did want to offer this opportunity to providers that would provide free service and the ability to automate a lot of the manual processes that providers are already doing. So these services are free for the first 2 years, and then providers can sign up for an additional 2 years at a state discounted price if they choose to continue. or you can complete your free 2 years and have the option of canceling at that time. So completely up to you. We do have 3 state preferred vendors that we are working with. That's Alliance Core, powered by Early Learning Ventures, Brightwheel, and Playground. And we've already had over 800 providers that have signed up through one of these services, and we're getting a lot of great feedback. If you are interested in one of these, the deadline is July 15th, and the link is on the screen in the green box if you're interested in learning more about how a CCMS program can really benefit your program. Additionally, OE CASEL is introducing what we call a data bridge or an API. You'll see both of those used, which will allow childcare providers who are using one of the 3 preferred childcare management systems to connect to the state system to easily transmit attendance data for voucher children. Only the attendance data is transmitted. Other things that you're doing in your CCMS would not be available to the state. Providers who are using one of these systems will no longer have to duplicate their attendance entries into the new provider portal. So if you're using one of the 3 preferred, you can capture your attendance and absence data in your CCMS and transmit that same data to the state for your voucher children, saving time and increasing accuracy. At this time, the state does not have a data bridge with any other CCMS vendor. So if you are using any that are not one of the 3 I mentioned, then you do still need to enter your absence data in the provider portal every 2 weeks. So no obligation to switch, but it just means that you will have to do that data entry as well. So the way that data bridge works is that providers track their enrollment in a supported CCMS system. The data bridge captures that enrollment data and then transmits it to the state system to pay the provider. So again, no need to duplicate attendance data in the provider portal, which saves a lot of time and effort. So moving forward, OE CASA will be switching payment vendors from Conduent to Rapid Financial Systems with pay by enrollment. Rapid Financial Systems is out of Indiana, so that will bring everything local to us. And there will also be the new provider portal as well as a new parent portal. For the best experience, providers will need to have an up-to-date computer with an internet connection and then access to one of the frequently used browsers such as Chrome, Firefox, Edge, or Safari to record absences. Or providers have the option of using a mobile device as long as it is kept up to date and using one of the default browsers for that phone. Providers will continue to be paid every 2 weeks on the same week that you are being paid now. With our new payment vendor and pay by enrollment, there will be no skipped payments in the transaction, but the new payment date will change from Wednesday to Thursday. So that will be a change that you will see once we make the switch later this summer. But as long as you get registered with the new payment vendor and get everything switched, that will be the only change you'll see there. You'll still be paid in the same week. The system change will require some action from both families and providers, including before, during, and after the system changes. So over the next few months, we are asking a few things for you. So from now through the end of June, that is when we want to prepare for this change. So at the end of the presentation, I will be providing you some more information as well as a website where you can learn more about pay by enrollment. We need you to go into iLead and make sure that all of your staff rosters and program contacts are updated. We want to make sure that we have a way to get a hold of the right people to get them the right information. We need you to clean up your child rosters. So that's really going to be identifying all of those children that are no longer attending, that are still enrolled in your program, and then contacting your eligibility office to have those children removed. We want to make sure they don't get transferred with you to the new system and cause an overpayment. We also need you to close out any late attendance records that you have. So this is a really, really important step. Because the systems will all be new, we need to make sure that all attendance and swipes are up to date when we make this switch. So all late attendance needs to be entered prior to our go live. And then we will also provide you with some family communications if you'll help support getting those out to families and letting them know about this change as well. About mid-July, we will be ready to go live with the new system. At that time, you will be required to sign into your new provider portal and register, as well as enter your banking information, holidays, and your closures. Again, we will be pushing at that time for all of the late attendance records to be entered. We want to make sure nothing is lost when we switch to the new system. And then facilitating family registration and case linking that will be required from your families. And then at the end of July, post go live, that will be our final call to submit late attendance records. We'll be submitting the first attendance periods in the new portal. We'll need you to check and confirm that all of your payments are coming through correctly. And then if you are going to use one of the the CCMS systems that are offered by the state, that's when we'll get you connected to that data bridge. And then most exciting, I think, on this slide is you will be able to return or recycle your POS machines. So they will be done at that point. We do have a website where we will provide recycling centers for every county across the entire state. If you don't have one close and you don't want to go that route, then you can request that those be returned to Conduit as well. So they'll get you out a box and a label to send your POS machines back. So what do providers need to do ASAP? Again, I'm just going to recap these. So logging into your provider portal, confirming that your child rosters are all up to date. And if you see children that are enrolled that are not attending, notifying your eligibility offices to have them removed. Working with families to complete all of those late attendance entries, and then visiting our new webpage to learn more about the change and access helpful resources and all of the frequently asked questions. So the website that is listed here, on.in.gov/vouchers, will take you to all of the pay by enrollment information. And the frequently asked questions are broken down into provider questions, family questions, and we'll keep those updated as things come up, questions come up in the webinars, things like that, so that we can make sure that all of that information is ready for you. So what families can expect, their first step is going to be to link their case to their account. So each family is going to be provided a parent key that will be unique to them to ensure that we are securely displaying only info that they should be seeing. The key will be provided to all of the existing families on the voucher program in a letter they receive in the mail. And then as new families enroll in the program after the switch, then they will get that at the end of their voucher report with instructions. The link the applicant needs to be able to link their case, they're going to need their case number, their applicant's last name, the applicant date of birth, and that parent key. So they only need to do that one time, the first time that they come to the portal, and only the applicant will have access to the case information. Families will no longer be required to take action on those daily attendance, but we do want them still to register for their portal so that they can see their absence counts as they collect those, and to also see their reauthorization dates. So even though this is just read-only information, we want to encourage families to log on and have access to that information. Another change that OECOS will be making is that because the conduit help desk will go away when we switch payment vendors, Spark will now be handling all of the general questions that are related to pay by enrollment before, during, and after our transition. So we're super happy to have them on board and know they will provide excellent resources for providers and families and a much better help desk experience. We also have a new email that has been set up for payment questions. So if you have questions, you don't know where to go, this would be a great place to start. And that is paymentquestions@fssa.in.gov. And that will come directly to one of us at the state, and we will make sure that we get your questions answered. As you are going through the next couple of months, if you need support with late attendance or missing payments, you should still contact your policy consultant. And if you don't know who your policy consultant is, I've included a link here that will go to the policy consultant map. You just find your county and it will tell you who your policy consultant is that you can reach out to for help with that late attendance or any missing payments. If you are cleaning up your roster, you need to remove children that are no longer attending, you should still contact your local eligibility office. And again, the link to that map is included here. So if you don't know who to contact at your eligibility office, you can click on this and find your map, look for your county, and then you'll know which office to contact. We will be hosting some additional webinars in late June to ensure that providers are fully prepared for the new system changes, as well as for some of the broader legislative changes that have been happening within the early childcare and learning system. The June webinars will go more in depth about the steps to close out everything in the current Epic system and to be ready for this change. And then the July webinars, we'll share information on registering for the new portals, setting up your banking, and submitting your first set of attendance entries in the new system. So these will be happening right about the time of go live. So please plan to attend both the June and the July sessions. These will be afternoon sessions that I have listed here, just kind of as some save the dates. There'll also be an evening session that will be offered both in June and July that will be announced a little bit later. So we've reached the end of the presentation. Again, the new website information is listed here, so please check that out for additional resources and answers to the FAQs. I hope that I will see everyone again in a few weeks for more information. And then we will continue to monitor the Q&A for a little bit longer. So if you have questions, now is a great time to ask those if you haven't already. We will stay until those questions are answered, and then we will make sure that we're updating the FAQs on the website with any of those answers as needed as well. If you don't have any further questions, I really thank everyone for being here and giving me a little bit of your time and participation today. And we hope that everyone is just as excited as we are to make the shift this summer. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Shannon, and thank you everyone for your participation. Just a reminder, and I just put this in the chat, please utilize that Q&A feature for questions you may have. We are unable to allow participants to come off mute due to the number of attendees. Additionally, we will continue to stay on to make sure that these Q&As are answered. So if you have submitted something and you haven't seen the answer pop up yet, please know that we are working diligently to make sure that that is answered for you. But if you have no further questions, again, thank you so much for attending, and we appreciate that. As well, a recording of this will be available on the website once we are able to get that uploaded. So if you did miss anything, we will have that, and we will update the FAQs as necessary.